You're listening to the Hella Well with Danielle show, a podcast taking women of color on a journey exploring all things wellness and travel related. We're all about showing you how to put on your oxygen mask first and creating lasting self-care habits that will free you to travel the world and live the life you truly desire, and not one you have to fake loving. I'm your host, Danielle Washington. Now let's buckle up and start this journey. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Hella Well with Danielle podcast. I am Danielle Washington, your host of the show, and this is the last week of the year. Wow. 2020, you always say, oh my God, this year went by so fast. But 2020 completely went by so fast, and it is an unforgettable year. And especially this week, we usually, kind of rush through it. You go from Thanksgiving and then straight into, it's like Christmas and New Year's Eve are like a boom, boom. They're right all together. And so we often rush in from Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate around this time of the year and then into New Year's Eve. And we don't always take the time to reflect, not until New Year's Eve or January 1st. And so this is also our last episode in this month-long series we're calling Awaken to You. And in this series, we've been uber so focused on being intentional about reflecting so we can be awake to where we are now, where we want to be, so we can truly thrive in 2021. And what I wanted to talk about this week especially is, there have been so many blessings and lessons in this year that you've probably experienced. And this year's probably been a defining moment in your life in so many different ways. It's been a defining moment in the global history. It'll definitely be one for the history books. And in this final episode in the series, it's really a time for us to we've been diving in all month long, but this episode especially is really to take time to do an end of the year review and to unpack key areas of your life and to gain and maintain the clarity you need to really truly set you up for the next season in your life. And my guest, Alexandra Harris, who is the founder of Yes, She Leads, is the perfect girl for this. She is my sister girl. I love her dearly, and she's just so amazing, and her insights are great. And so she will be guiding us through exhaling out of 2020 with grace and gratitude so you can find the flow to thrive in 2021. And just a little bit about Alex. Alex is dedicated to encouraging women to claim their title as leaders and say yes to success and be empowered by their vision, transformation, and faith. She is a consultant and coach. She has an amazing group, and she's just an all around great person and such an insightful, I get so many aha moments from her. So, she will be breaking down so many different things. So make sure you're paying attention. But also I wanted to remind you that, next week again is the first week of the year and everyone's going to be doing a bunch of stuff. So I'm going to let you guys breathe for a week, but I wanted you to really go in hard the following week. So the following week, the second week in January, we are actually hosting a challenge, what we're calling, it's a 5-day challenge called Breaking Up with the Norm. And it'll be your way to really kind of start the year off right and making sure that you're setting up yourselves and, interrupting the bad habits and patterns that no longer serve you and setting yourself up to redefine what success means to you, redefine what wellness means to you, and not just do New Year's resolutions and say, oh, I'm going to lose weight, but finding wellness that really works for you. So I encourage you, if you have it, make sure to register for that. You can go to the hellawellwithdanielle.com website to learn more about that. But other than that, this episode is my gift to you at the end of the year to make sure that you are truly thriving in 2021. Hello, Alex, and welcome to the Hello Well with Danielle podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks so much for having me as a guest, Danielle.
Well, I love you. Like
my cousin, mutual.
My cousin from the southern side of the state.
West side.
I love you. Though you did leave us to go to Georgia. I won't hate you for that.
I did, but I'm forever a California girl.
Yes, thank you. So this has been a year, girl. Like COVID has been crazy. I mean, COVID, racial tensions, the election from, some reality TV show. And as we wind down, this is like the last year this is the last week. This is last year. I hope it's not my last year. It's the last week of the year. And, people are starting to get to the point where they're freaking out. They're like trying to figure out what to do and all these different things. And I know that you have such this vision on making sure that we don't come out of 2020 all stressed out, but we exhale into grace and gratitude. Why do you think it's so important that we reflect and kind of shift how we end the year?
Well, the biggest reason is for our well-being, right? And I mean, this is the hella well with Danielle. So we want to be really well. What does it mean to truly be okay? And there's been so much stress and so much tension, an inability to identify a new normal, even in the midst of all these changes, pivoting in the midst of pivots, right? Because there's been so much inconsistency and we gravitate to that. We want stability. And there has not been a lot of that in 2020. So I think it's important for us as women, especially those who are leaders in your family, leaders in your work or in your business, to take the time to reflect and unpack 2020 to find more value in it than just the year that everybody wants to take out to the trash, right?
Yeah.
In preparation for 2021, I don't anticipate 2021 being a year where people January 1st are going to say, this is my year. I'm going to take this year by
girl. I think someone's going to be saying, I think someone's going to be ballsy like this. I feel like I'm about to say, it's going to be I'm saying it now. 2021 is about to be my year, but I know most people are going to be like, I don't know what to expect. And I think people are coming in unknown.
And the reality is every year, we never know. There's never any certainty. We have an illusion of it. 2020 is a year that unveiled that illusion, right? And it confronted every belief, every thought, every faith practice, every value that you hold. And it challenged us on every aspect of that. And some of us have come out on top and we're going to say 2021 is going to be my year. And I appreciate that confidence, but you know that you're saying a controversial statement. Like even when you say it, you're like, okay, I'm going to be bold. I'm going to be confident. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say 2021 is going to be great. But instinctively, what we are all feeling is the weight of the uncertainty, right?
Mm-hmm.
And feeling like 2021, at best, it might be all right. And at worst, we like, it could be like last year. So I don't even want to say anything positive because I don't want to get disappointed. I don't want my feelings to get hurt. I don't want to be let down. Well, putting ourselves in that situation almost says that in any other year prior, we were guaranteed that things were going to work out. And we know that that's not true. And so what it is that we're responding to the trauma and we're changing our belief and our vision for our own lives and what we even want to see as possible based on what has happened this year. And I think part of shifting that mindset around that and helping people open up their hearts and have enthusiasm and, increase hope, right, is to be able to find gratitude in this year. Well, somebody might be saying, well, Alexandria, listen, you don't know the year I had. I don't have nothing to be grateful for. I don't. Listen, I'm here and that's about it. And I feel you. I've suffered a lot of loss and a lot of shifts and changes this year as well. My heart goes out to every person who has experienced the tragedies that come along with something like the pandemic that we have been experiencing. But I know that this year has more lessons in it if we pay attention. If we take the time to consider the whole picture and not just focus on the one that's the most obvious. Like what's the interior story? What's the other stories that are happening in our lives that we can choose to tell as we think about the future and as we think about what our experience has been? Yes, it's been COVID. Yes, it's been racial tension. Yes, it's been difficult days. But what else? And is there anything else? And I want to make sure that we're creating space to honor that.
And you brought up so much in that point. First of all, yeah, I guess I never could predict in other years that it definitely could be my year, but it doesn't. It does it because this year has been such, in theory, quote unquote, a tragic year for so many people, from the RIP to my travel life, my dating life. my social
Mm-hmm.
life, and all these different things. But, I can also say 2020 has been a pretty big year because that's when we started the Hell Well with Danielle podcast and a bunch of other different things. But I never really thought about the fact that, we, in other years, because there's like kind of going from one to the other and there's nothing so tragic in most of our lives, we never thought about saying, oh yeah, I can say this is going to be my year with certainty when we really didn't have the certainty. So there is no true difference. So I love that you brought that up. But I also love that you brought up the fact that a lot of things happen great in our life. Like we have been so focused. I used to work in politics. And so I have more so than low key, because it's not low key anymore. It's now just an addiction. I've been addicted to CNN, and I've recently have weaned myself off, but like it was just,
Congratulations.
yeah, and I won't lie. It was kind of, I feel awkward saying this. It was a little bit hard because I was addicted to the drama of the election. Because for me, it was like, oh my God, like they're about to change our whole electoral process and all these different things. And it stressed me out, and I wasn't paying attention to how much it was stressing me out. So like when I think of 2020, I think of those major trauma and how trauma shows up as if, I'm not saying I felt like I was raped or something, because I totally wasn't, and not in this year, but I don't know why I just said that. But, we focus on the bigger things and we're not focused on the lessons. And I love that there's those lessons, but how do we go about, getting clarity on, creating reviewing our end of the year, like what we did?
So the three areas that I am going to encourage my clients to really take a look at, the filters, the lenses, I guess, I would say. Grace for yourself, uh, giving yourself grace for, the to-do list that just never got completed, the goals that you swore you were going to get to this year that did not happen the way that you wanted them to. But to give yourself grace and honor the fact that you have done the work to get yourself where you are, and whatever that means, to recognize that you have done well. Well done. Good job. Right. And give grace to the other situations, other people perhaps who didn't pull through the way that you had expected on your behalf. Maybe you had expectations of other folks in your life, and it can be hard to accept that they did the best that they could too in that situation. The second is grief. And grief is, I am learning, 2020 has taught me, here's my lesson, one of my
Mm-hmm.
lessons, that grief is so dynamic. When I think of grief and when I see grief visually, I think of someone in tears. I think of physical response to pain, sadness on your face. And what I've learned is that grief looks so different than just that picture. That's one layer of grief is sorrow, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes grief is withdrawing and being less creative. Sometimes it's a lack of confidence in looking forward to something in the future. Sometimes it is not knowing how to feel because moving on feels wrong, but staying stuck in the moment also feels heavy. And so negotiating and navigating that. And I want people to have the space to feel the grief that they need for the loss of loved ones, if that's where their grief stems from, the loss of income for some people who lost work,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a real thing to say, I had stability, or I had what I felt was stability. And now my lifestyle has been lost because of that revenue, or the things that I wanted to do because of that revenue is different, or whatever the plan I had to stay here for 5 years and, move on and get a promotion and a raise, like those things have now been lost. And there's a grief that goes with that. There's a presence of that loss. But even things down to what you were describing, loss of travel, it's not small. I think some people may
Yeah.
consider that, that beautiful trip to the beach on their vision board and go, oh, well, that was something nice to have, but at least I'm alive. Yes. And when I talk about real vision, I encourage women to look at the more than just the result of the picture they chose. So if you chose the picture on the beach and you say, yes, this is my picture on the beach and this is the vision I have, is to travel and I love it It's going to be so much fun. I asked them to identify what is the core value that you're associating to being on that beach. Is it escape and rest and relaxation? Is it adventure? Is it a slower pace in life? Is it the idea that you can get into a different environment where you're not running the rat race? Like, what is your association? Is it freedom? What is your association
It's
to
all
that
the above.
particular vision? What is yours? What does travel mean to you, Danielle?
Oh, are you putting me on the spot, Oprah?
I am. I want to get a, because you're such a great example of this, and I think your listeners will appreciate this example. So you love travel, but what does travel mean to you? What's
So
the value?
travel means to me several different things. Travel, I always tell people travel is my therapy. That's why I wrote a book called Travel is My Therapy. And so it's how I unplug and recharge, but it's also my community. When I think about it, like when I didn't realize until we were in COVID that oftentimes when I'm here in California, I'm not doing much because I'm used to like just like unpacking, being there, doing some work, and then getting back on the road. So didn't really have a life. So my life and my community and meeting people and community is one of my core values. So for me, meeting people, being out and about and seeing new cultures, trying new foods, that is what travel, it fulfills one of my top values. It fulfills my happiness. It brings me joy. It does mean freedom to me. I also love being in nature. For me, I'm someone who I found that I need to like have my feet in the sand, and that's that connection with Mother Earth. And I'm not the one. I'm not trying to get my feet in the dirt because I'm like that sounds like dirt, but I'm all about my feet in the sand. But that's my connection with nature, and that's my connection to hear the waves and feel like I can ground in further. And so travel to me is literally every aspect of my life, and it's also how I date. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is why this is so brilliant for you and your community to recognize. So for grief, right? And perhaps you've experienced some of those layers of grief. It's not just, oh, I didn't get to take my trip that I was really looking forward to. Oh, I don't get to, be on the beach and lay in my hammock. Oh, darn. It is, oh, wow. I am grieving the loss of certain aspects of my way of life and parts of my identity that are tied to this vision that I have of myself and this experience.
No, I
And
love that.
and I want people to know that even for something that someone else may consider small or not as significant as other types of loss, that whatever it is that you're grieving in this season is valid. And to give yourself the space to recognize what it was that you feel like 2020 either took from you or that you lost along the way.
And I love that
Because
you brought up grief because
yeah,
that's, we had a whole other podcast with Herden Mercier on grief, because I do feel exactly what you're talking about is people aren't realizing that grief isn't just losing someone, but, grieving the life that you had planned. Like I know I had for my other business, for Rogue Experiences, 2020 was about to be our year. Like I was expanding out and doing new trips and adding
we
new.
were going to Turks and Caicos. Let me tell you how I grieved that. Let me tell you how I personally now see in me as a mom, as a mompreneur, as busy with client work. I have not taken an international trip in several years because I've been, birthing babies and raising children. Okay. And working on developing my business and the business with my husband. And 2020, honey, all over my vision board, I was like, this is the year that I'm going to have not only the time, but the resources to take a break. I will have family who's going to fly in from out of town to take care of my child and in a safe environment where I feel free to go back and explore and have, this wonderful experience and take an international trip with my husband, which we've never done. And I grieved that as a woman, as a wife. I really felt like, but it's my turn, right? And it's my turn for this break, and it's my chance to do this and that and the third. And what I have to recognize is that in order for me to get to the gratitude, I need to be able to recognize what it was that I felt a loss for so that I can heal that, right? And
Hmm.
make space for the gratitude. Part of what happens, because gratitude's next, part of what happens is that it's difficult to recognize what you can be grateful for when you're already pretending to be grateful for stuff you ain't grateful
Ooh, wait, honey, you say that one more time because I think someone needed to hear that on repeat.
for. Listen, when you're told, and there's a name for it, I recently heard, I'd never heard it before, but toxic positivity. When you are told or
Ooh.
you expect yourself to be, well, at least it's not this bad. Well, I'm sure it could be worse. And I'm actually, I'm happy that I'm at home all the time stressing. It's a good chance for everything to be better. When that's not genuine and you're pretending to be grateful for things that you're not really grateful for, and you're ignoring the pain of whatever that loss is, and you're pretending it don't hurt, it's real difficult to get to that depth of gratitude that's necessary to be able to actually have genuine hopefulness and vision that's alive with you moving forward.
Girl, that's a word. That's a word. Because the thing is, there's so many people living this way. And I know this because I was that person for so many years.
Mhm.
It's like, what it is, what it is, at least, got a job, even though I'm depressed, I'm having high blood pressure and all these different things. And especially in this world of social media where we're trying to play the role online, you have so many people like, my life is amazing. My family is amazing. Look, we're just the new Cosbys without the sexual abuser. Um, I'm sorry.
Sans any, you're like illegal allegations, right?
Alleged, sorry, alleged. But seriously, people are living these lives saying, oh, my life is so amazing. It's so perfect. It's so wonderful on social media. You think they're just fine. But in life, they're like, oh my God, I'm suffering. They're like middle of the night, just that's when they're having these panic attacks of all these things that like, this is not the life I want to live. Like, I don't recognize, like, there's people who wake up in the, middle of the night or just in general and like, how did I end up in this life? This is not the life I planned. This is not the life that I chose. And I'm somewhere else, but they're living in publicly like it's the best life in the world.
And that is a part of a societal pressure. It's
Yes.
definitely applied to women. Social media applies it abundantly where
Especially
we
women of
need
color.
to, certainly where we need to look the part. You need to look like you are, living your best life, doing the best, that everybody expects of you. And there is a brain clog
Mm-hmm.
when you are lying, right? But you don't know you're lying because you're lying to yourself too. You're trying to, say, hey, just keep your head up, just put the smile on your face, even though I'm broken inside. What I want people to be able to recognize is that it is okay to say, I am grieving the loss of my travel, the loss of my friend circle. I'm grieving the fact that I wasn't able to gather with my family for the holidays, and I am grateful. I have gratitude for the fact that I still have my job.
Yeah.
We can hold those things together. We can say, I am struggling with my mental and emotional health and I need therapy. And I am so, excited about the fact that there's a new movie out that I'm going to get in the bed and snuggle and watch something. They can both be true. And we don't encourage people to keep it real. And I
Yeah.
definitely, I'm not about the vision boards with the pretty pictures. I love a good vision board, but I want it to be reflective of real vision that works with the ups and downs of life, that recognizes the transformation that is necessary and the process that we go through. And 2020 has been a year of transformation, even if you did not ask to be transformed.
The
And
universe says, honey, I'm gonna gift it to you anyway.
you see what I'm saying? Is you're already here. Welcome. Right. And so what is it that you are willing to do with this moment, with this season? We can complain about it. I think that's valid. You can be upset about some of the situations. I think that's valid too. But if we allow the dominant narrative to only be about how horrible it is, how difficult, how trash, take 2020 out to the trash, it's so trash, then we miss we miss the opportunity to see what the other learnings and the other stories that we can tell ourselves. For me, I'll use one example, and I have many, because 2020 said,
What a
okay,
year.
listen, we got lessons on lessons on lessons to learn.
But the thing is, before you even go further,
Phew.
lessons on lessons on lessons. But I look at you and I see you and I've talked to you. And yes, I know you will tell me, nah, sis, I'm not okay. But you still are smiling. Like that's one thing I love about you. And I don't think it's toxic positivity. I think that you are able to see you're able to have the duality of some things are not okay, but I'm so grateful for other things. So yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, so even within that, I appreciate that that you can see that smile, because there are times where I make the effort to say, what's the best way for me to show up in this moment? What's the most honest way? And sometimes it's smiling and recognizing I wasn't okay yesterday. I'm a little better today, and I'm going to smile about being a little better today. But what I'm not going to do is lie to you and say, girl, I'm good, girl. I've done that. I've been her.
Yeah, we all have. And I appreciate we don't have a friendship like that and that you're
We
not like that.
we got to be honest. And I had to practice not saying, "Oh, I'm fine. Hey, how you doing today? I'm good. I'm fine." Like as an autoresponder,
Yeah.
before you even think about it, you didn't actually scan your body. You didn't actually, feel anything. You just answered what you normally would just spew out so that people can move on, right? I had to unlearn doing that to be able to say, how am I doing today? Thank you for asking me. I'm okay. Thank you for asking. I would like to be doing better. I probably need to eat. I'm a little tired, and I'm going to, get back to you. I'll be better tomorrow, or whatever the case may be, right? And being able to be honest, I spent years not really even not only not doing it, but not being able to do it. Somebody asked me how I'm feeling. I don't know, because
But
I'm
what was
so
the switch?
busy. Excuse me, say it again.
What was the switch? Which got you? How did you switch that up? What made you switch that up? Because I think there's some people who resonate with that. What was the switch for you?
One was learning how to grieve, because part of it was when I experienced difficult things, I either went into a complete numb response so that I did not have to feel the weight of things,
Mm-hmm.
which wasn't healthy, or I would be such an emotional mess that I wasn't able to carry on with the day. I would be out for the whole day. Like if I'm crying, it's just okay. She's just leave her be, give her some rest and some time, because I didn't have a balance of how to process things. And after doing that for so long and recognizing that neither of them were healthy, I was like, I have to trying to numb and trying to shut off access to my actual emotions and feelings. That ain't working, sis. That's not working, because you cannot be authentic if you can't even identify how you feel, because you're deliberately saying, oh, here come all these big feelings. Let me cut that off. Let me shut that down. You
And
can't
that's a
be
huge
authentic.
part of my program too. So when I go or with my clients and talking about the not Awake program, the AIR journey was, awaken, interrupt, and redefine. It's like, if you don't know where you are now, it's hard to change. You need to,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that sign at the mall. You need to know you are here.
You are here. You're like, where is here? Well, I can get you to there as long as you know where here is. The great thing is working with somebody like you, or, getting a coach, or, some support, a therapist, you can shift the awareness that you have about where you are. So it's not like you're lost forever, but you do need to start here. You do need a place that says start here. Start where you are, do what you can. Like those things are true, but it is important to recognize where you are. And I think that also goes back to the exhale of 2020, because if we're feeling the stress and the weight of this year without even knowing it, sometimes we're holding our breath.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're literally holding our breath. And for me, so the example that I wanted to share with your community here is that I, lost my job at the beginning of the pandemic. And I've always been running a business in addition to my work. But the pandemic completely shut off that additional income. And I was initially just kind of like, is this what it is, God? Okay. Well, you know what? I'm going to just dive right on in. I don't have no space for none of these feelings. I'm just doing my thing. And I'm going to write this book. I'm going to finish writing this book. I'm going to publish. I'm going to put on my cape and I'm going to, forge ahead. Right. And I
Mm-hmm.
forged and I forged and I forged, got the book done, got the launch, got excited. And then the weight of the grief began to hit me. And I was like, I don't know what to do from here. I don't know how to express. I don't know how to hold the duality. I'm not giving myself the space to hold the duality that I need to grieve the fact that I lost that employment opportunity. But I also need to be grateful and excited that I had the time and the space and the energy to create something that was so important to me in my spirit. And what that has led to, so that was the lesson that I can have both. I can celebrate both of those things and they can both be true. But the
Mm-hmm.
blessing in the lesson is that really I got ushered in to full-time entrepreneurship here in 2020. And I had plans for that in the future, but not the way that,
The way
the
COVID kicked
pandemic
it into you.
impacted. Right. It was like, we're not worried about if you're ready. You didn't pack a bag, no problem. Here's your flight. Your
Yeah.
tickets have been paid for. Get on the plane. We're going. And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, what? And so getting to that place of like, that is a blessing that I was able to recognize that out of a difficult circumstance, I get to have the opportunity to pursue writing and speaking and and coaching and things that I really enjoy and want to nurture, women. And so had I not been able to see that, I would have stayed in the grievy space and
Yep.
not gotten to the gratitude point where I could see that there was purpose within that loss. So 2020, there are things that I lost, but there are also things that I gained. And I think it's important for us to be able to recognize both of them, give ourselves and others grace, and breathe it out so that we can actually be prepared with full hearts and an open mind when it comes to 2021.
I love that. And so one of the things I know you talk about often, because you are like the queen of vision, and I love that about you, helping people get clear on their visions and goals. So, okay, we've grieved, we've, had some grace, we had some gratitude, but what happened in 2020? How do we get clarity on the vision and goals for 2021?
We go back to that heart of where you were January 2020, and that's part of that review. Because along the way of this year, those goals and those things that were so important have chipped away or been diminished. We go back to what was important last year. What was important 5 years before that? A lot of times our vision is not time bound. It's not dictated on a year annual calendar, but our goals are. So, and I've said this, I've shared this in my group before. 2020 did not mess up or destroy your vision, but it absolutely messed with your goals.
Yeah.
And there's a distinction, right? And so when we get to vision, once we unpack the clutter of just this single narrative that 2020 was all bad, and we're able to look at some of the things, the lessons and the blessings in it, then I think that gives us the room and the space and of course the grace to then look at, so what is it that we really want to continue in our lives? What are those core values? And then get back to exploring what are the goals that help you manifest those core values. So once we get to that real vision piece that's not time bound, it's a part of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's going to be with you in some iteration every year.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't even change because it's really ingrained in the way that you show up in the world. Uh, for me, I'm always going to show up serving women and girls. Mothers, single women, single moms, married folk, biz entrepreneurs, professional women. I'm always going to be looking teens, college students. I'm always going to be looking to serve women and girls, help empower them, educate them, and make sure they are safe from violence. I'm always going to do that. So that's my real vision. That's a part of a core of who I am. Now, once I have that in front of me, I can begin to dream and plan and set goals for how do I want and what is my commitment to having that show up in my life in this
Mm-hmm.
new year. So we unpack the year, we uncover the gunk, get back to a place where we can recognize that every single year of our lives, good things happen and bad things or difficult things happen. And what do? We keep moving forward. As long as we have breath in this body, as long as we have the creative energy in our spirits and our hearts, then we need to be committed to creating along those lines, right? And so when we get back to that place, we look at that real vision, unpack those core values, and then we begin to just explore what is it that what is our best hope and intention for this year to come in 2021, and begin to set goals around those things.
And that's why I totally wholeheartedly believe with you. I think one of the things that's why the reason why I'm doing the Breaking Up with the Norm challenge in January, because I think people they get into the point where they're now doing exactly what you're talking about, is figuring out, what did I do? What did I want to do? What are my visions? What are my goals? And once they set those goals and okay, this is the things I'm going to redefine in my life and change, but not realizing that with those changes, you need to break up with some of those old habits.
I love that.
And so that's the real reason why I wanted to do that, because I think people make these New Year's resolutions and all these other things and aren't really thinking it through that, okay, new year, new me, when it's usually new year, old me, because you make these goals, but you aren't changing the old habits and patterns to align with those new goals. But one of the things,
here's the extra bonus piece there, if I can just interject this one. 2020 has brought on a lot of unhealthy habits that people have used to cope with the year. It's not even what they normally do. It's not really embedded in who they are, but it's what they're using just to get by. Right? Talib Kweli right here, just to get by.
I love that song.
One morning I woke up. Okay.
Have me dancing up in here. I was like, and I should
come on, come on. You can give them a little cabbage patch. And so I think it's important, even on the exhale, is to say, let me recognize some of the things as a part of my grieving, or as a part of my, holding on to, the stability that I feel like I needed to get through all these changes. Let me use this habit or that bad habit, or I'm not sleeping the way that I normally would. I'm not hydrating. I'm not getting outside and exercising because my gym closed down, right? Like whatever little iteration of those things, we can recognize what they are, honor that, give yourself grace. You did the best that you could with what you had. And also, how do I want to show up differently now that I've recognized that I'm relying on these unhealthy tools to cope? Let me replace them with healthy ones. Let me drop those bad habits and look for other things, other ways that I can move through this. Let me improve my self-care plan, which I just did recently, to recognize when I am in a place where I need to stop and take a breather so that I can keep the momentum in my life. So what are the things that have to happen instead of the unhealthy things that I might be using from this year to just cope?
Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I feel like, when people are making visions and goals for the next year, sometimes when you look at the year and they can't get to the gratitude or the grace, but they're still in the woe is me world, how do you avoid the negative loop of your thoughts of, thinking about the past and the future? Because some people are already thinking, well, I failed in 2020, oh my God, 2021. I'm like, I don't have it in me, or they just get in this negative loop about the future and the past. So how do you help them, or what are your advices helping them avoid that negative loop?
To say that you're not alone. And in a year like this, even if that's not the normal way that you tend to handle confronting the past and thinking about the present or in the future, that it has kind of made it almost impossible to avoid. For example, you were talking, Danielle, about watching the election interviews, and
I want to know what you're talking about. I wasn't watching the election. Yeah.
And so, but being connected to that was like constantly having to think about what has been done in the past 3 years, think about the present moment, and what candidates are speaking to that present moment, and most importantly, what is the commitment that all of these candidates are making about the future, right? And so it's a part of what has been feeling like a requirement of us. But I think what can happen is when you're talking about that negative loop, what can happen is, again, if you're stuck in only looking at one side of it, right? And so my advice would be to design some like use some self-care techniques to interrupt the pattern. And I
Mm-hmm.
love that interrupt is part of your AIR plan, and the challenge that your community would be able to learn more about interrupting patterns, but interrupting the patterns. So for me, that is like, I have to literally say out loud, no, that's not true. This was true in the past. It doesn't have to be true in the future. I have to audibly say that to interrupt the mental thought, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it was bad then. It might be bad today. It's going to be bad in the future. No, it's possible that it's not going to work out in the future, but it's also possible that things are going to get better. And I have to speak the truth to myself. And even if I'm close with others who are around me, I have to speak the truth to them, because I don't need to absorb their negative words. I need
Yeah.
to be able to hold space for the fact that there's hope, and I have faith that things will change and improve, looking for the future. So interrupting myself literally with my words, speaking the truth. I have a tendency, I have to catch myself, and I had to learn to do this. I can look at something and make the worst case scenario in my head about it, and recognizing that that is not actually what's happening. It's not actually the truth in that moment. And so again, speaking the truth in that instance. I would also, for me, it might be reading something that's positive, taking the time to get out of your brain and getting into positive material that allows you to have hope, to nurture your faith and to grow. For me, that might be reading, a Brene Brown book, or it might be reading, for me, my spiritual well-being in my Bible, right? It might be, playing my gospel music, or listening to, some 90s soul to soul, or, something that uplifts me and reminds me that times are not always stuck in the moment that I am in, right? And that there's more hope to give. Also, affirmations are a big thing, and I surround my life with them. So I have vision boards, in my office and around my house. And I also have words of affirmation and encouragement that I can constantly kind of draw to interrupt. That says, like, I just picked up something recently and I love it so much. And it was like, life is tough, but so are you,
Oh,
chin
yes.
girl. I was like, yes,
Life is tough, but
sometimes,
so are you.
sometimes life is tough. Not all the time, but sometimes it is. And sometimes you need to be reminded that you are not made from a completely different material than the toughness of this world, that you are built for this. You can endure, and it might mean some changes, some metamorphosis. You might have to go from your caterpillar to your butterfly phase in life and grow some wings so you can deal with this thing and fly away, right? Like, you might have to change and pivot to meet the moment, but you're capable and you have what it takes to be able to do that, and do it with grace and do it with gratitude.
Yeah. So if you guys are ready to change from that caterpillar and pivot into that butterfly, I encourage you to join our Breaking Up with the Norm challenge and start your year off right so you can thrive instead of just surviving. I say this all the time. We, especially as women of color, are just, we feel historically we were just meant to survive. It is what it is. Just gotta keep working, keep doing this. And we put our self-care on the back burner. We put ourselves on the back burner, and it's time for us to thrive. It's time for us to be those butterflies. Alex, thank you so much for being here. You are a gift. You are a love. I just sometimes just want to give you the biggest hug if I could. I'm virtually hugging you right now. I miss you
Everywhere.
I miss you definitely. So how can our audience follow you and deep dive with what you're working on? I know you have a couple of great things coming up at the beginning of the year as well.
I do. They can hang out with me over on Facebook. I have a group, and it's just Facebook is Yes She Leads, which is a group dedicated to the empowerment and celebration of women. And focus on leadership and, celebrating those amazing, courageous milestones that women across the world are taking on and celebrating the leader in you. And I would love for your community to join in with me at the beginning of the year with my Rebuilding the Vision for Your Life challenge. And once you join the group, you'll get more information about that. And I'm really excited about it. I think this year, 2021, is a prime opportunity to rebuild your vision into a real vision, not just some pretty pictures on a vision board.
I know that's right. So every episode, I always do a quick fire questions with all the guests. So are you ready for your questions?
I'm probably not, but I'm here for you, boo. Let's go.
So whatever comes to mind first, this is not a time to think and there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not asking for your social security number. I'm just asking for your firstborn. I'm just kidding.
Okay. All right. No pressure. I can't be held responsible for what I say.
All right. So what does well living look like to you?
Oh, it's courageous. It's full. It's exciting. It's very beach relaxation. It's yummy. It's delicious food. It's tasty. There's some chilled wine that goes along with this, that
Girl, I'm so hungry. I hate you. I'm like, I'm hungry. She's trying to kill me, people. Aisle or window?
Aisle. I have very long legs. I need the aisle seat. Yes.
Are you 6 foot?
I'm taller than 6 foot. I'm 6'2". Yes.
You just took all the inches. So that's why I'm short, because you took the inch fairy and you took all the extra inches from me. How dare you?
I took the inches from you and at least 3 other average height women.
I love you, but I hate you. I'm like, I want to be taller, but I can imagine, yes, you would probably definitely need an aisle because windows probably would not be my God, got you. What's always in your travel bag?
Headphones and a journal and a pen.
Brought to my own heart. I always believe in bringing a journal with me at all times.
Oh, yes.
If you had to give your younger self advice about this wellness revolution of taking care of yourself and making sure that you're putting your self-care on the front burner, not the back burner, what's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
I would tell her, do not expend so much energy chasing after people who do not desire to nourish and love her back. And that would be friends, men, family, professors, all of it. They can have it.
That was a word. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for pouring into the community. I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for all that you do. I'm grateful that you found your gift to empower women and continue to live in it and just change the world.
You are so kind and generous to have me on your show. I love the work that you're doing, and I'm so proud of you for finding your voice that speaks to the heart of who you are, because travel is only one aspect of Danielle. And I'm so glad that as much as this year has pushed and pulled and we've, struggled and challenged, been challenged through so many things, I love that you've come out on top and further defined who you are. And I love that your community is coming around you and celebrating that.
You're amazing. I love you. This is like a love fest. Love fest all around. I can't wait to... Turks and Caicos is in our future. Just keep that in mind. It's in our future. It's coming back. All right, everyone. Thank you again for being here with us for another episode of the Hell Well with Danielle podcast. Tune in next week. Next week, it's a new year. I can't believe this is literally the last week of the year. But, next week we'll be talking about, are you living at capacity? And if you are, what are you doing about that? And I can't wait to have my guest, Nicole Roan, on. And other than that, Happy New Year. Make sure that you are taking time to exhale out of 2020 and to grace and gratitude. That's the way of life. Gratitude is the attitude. Talk to y'all soon. Ciao. Thanks for joining us this week on the Hello Well with Danielle show. Make sure to visit our website, hellowellwithdanielle.com, where you can subscribe to our show on iTunes, Spotify, and Amazon Music and never miss an episode. Also, you can follow us on social media at Hella Well with Danielle on Facebook and Instagram, and Hella Well Danny on Twitter. And if you like hella love the show and got some good nuggets out of it, know that I'm not too proud to ask for you to please leave a rating or review on iTunes so that we can continue to expand our reach and help other women of color. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I hope to see you next week. Ciao.